Welcome to Healthspan Digest. In the next 20 to 30 minutes, I'm going to leave you with one action item you can start today to extend your health span. This weekly podcast is dedicated to translating the science of health and longevity into realistic and easy to follow steps. Our topics range from nutrition to exercise to sleep and healthy habits to navigating stress, injuries, and limited time. And here's the disclaimer: this is not medical advice. It's just my observations from a nearly 30-year career in the rehab and fitness industries. And with that, let's get rolling. Maybe time to break up with your personal trainer. If you've been exercising with the goal of improving your strength, but you're not measurably stronger today than you were 4 to 6 weeks ago, then you're probably doing it wrong. And those results are the same whether you're 40 years old or 80 years old. My name is Aaron Shaw. I am your host, and I am your passionate advocate on extending your health span. Over the past nearly 30 years of my career, I've practiced as an occupational therapist, a certified hand therapist, a strength coach. I've been a health and fitness columnist. I've authored or co-authored numerous articles, book chapters, and presented at conferences, all on topics related to our health span. Our health span being the duration of time within our lifespan that we are healthy, active, and vibrant. Now, of course, this term health span is fairly new in our lingo. Way back, again, 27 years ago, didn't know it was health span, but it was always on health, fitness, nutrition, and remaining as vibrant as possible for as long as possible. Additionally, I am a competitive athlete still. I have always been active. Right now, my typical routine is I'm in the gym 3 days a week. I'm on my mountain bike 3 to 4 days a week. I do race mountain bikes. And now that I'm in my 50s, which always feels weird to say that, but now that I'm in my 50s, I'm committed to my health and lifestyle habits more than I've ever been, actually, because I know, and for those of you that are listening that are maybe over 20 years old, you may realize that our margin of error, the margin of error that we have to be healthy, kind of shrinks over time. So there are some changes in our life, changes in our physiology that none of us are too stoked about, but they are what they are. So the goal of this podcast is for me to take my enthusiasm, my passion for all things health, fitness, longevity, nutrition, vitality, health span, and share it with anyone who will listen. So I am grateful if you are listening to this. And I know that exploring our own health span is and really considering making some lifestyle changes may be new to you. Change is tough, but that's great. It's good to make change every once in a while. New is okay. Exploring something new is okay. In fact, it should be exciting. Really, I think that a lot of us, maybe get stuck in our ways or kind of feel like we're stuck and can't really make the changes that maybe we know we should be doing. But change is good. Appreciate new. I appreciate new. And today's topic being around strength training. Hard stop, greater strength leads to a greater health span, greater longevity. That's the way it works. The stronger you are, the more likely you are to live longer. In today's podcast, I'm going to briefly cover the different training phases or training blocks. These training blocks are designed to organize our exercise efforts over time. Ultimately, organize our efforts to get the results that we want, the strength that we want, the stamina that we want. So we break the process to achieve that into phases. We're going to start talking briefly about the preparatory phase all the way through to the maintenance phase. And within that phase, within that time frame, there is a phase for strength, a period of time where the focus of our exercises should be on gaining strength. I return to this phase regularly. So this is a very normal part of a cycle of achieving and maintaining health, fitness, stamina, and really what we call kind of being in shape. To specifically talk about strength, let's first of all define it. Strength is our ability to exert force on objects. And really force is, getting too scientific, it's really our ability to change an object's velocity or speed or direction. Functionally, that means picking up that heavy UPS box or Amazon box from your front stoop, picking it up, lugging it in the house. Strength is picking up a heavy carry-on bag, putting it in an overhead bin, picking up a big potted plant and carrying it outside so you can, put it in your garden or something. That takes strength. And we know that as we age, we lose strength. There's a very natural tendency to lose strength. And so unless we do something about it, and I would even argue, even if you do just a little bit, maybe you'll maintain it. So you got to do more than just a little bit of strength training to actually gain strength. The good news is, again, evidence is very clear. You can be 80 years old, start an exercise program, and you'll be stronger when you're 81. So we can still improve our strength. essentially no matter how old you are. The one action item that I'm going to give you today is going to be a specific strength training phase. I'm going to describe specific exercises you can do along with the number of sets, repetitions, and rest periods to take to get strength results. So that's going to be a very specific action item, something you can start today to improve your health span. And I'll briefly touch on the benefits of strength training are numerous, but I'll just skim over them just so we're on the same page. Aside from being functionally more capable of doing things, when you're stronger, you decrease your risk of falls. You decrease your risk of arthritis. You decrease your risk of disability, hospitalization, nursing home care. The stronger you are, the better cardiovascular health you're likely to have. And even just by having more muscles on your body as part of who you are, your resting metabolic rate increases, which means when you do want to sit down and watch Netflix, you're burning more calories doing nothing. That is a benefit of strength training. So let's talk about the phases of a well-organized exercise program that would really take the duration of months and months and months. The way to think about this is organizing it just like you would read a book. You read a book from the front to the back. So if you're starting an exercise program or revamping an exercise program, you would start at the very beginning. You open up the first chapter. The first phase is going to be an assessment phase. If you work with a personal trainer or a strength coach, they should take you through an assessment phase. Now, this assessment phase is a little bit more than just a straight up assessment. So I think when we first go to the gym or we first meet with somebody who is going to help us get fitter, there's a sense like, okay, today I'm going to get my butt kicked. I'm going to do as many, push-ups or squats or planks or whatever, and that's going to be the baseline. The reality is that a really well done assessment takes many, many sessions over the course of sometimes a couple of weeks for a trained professional to really get a sense of your true capacity, your true abilities. The assessment would look at your strengths, weaknesses, your mobility, your cardiovascular endurance, your muscular endurance, and really do a deep dive into your goals. Like, what does success look like for you? And I think that it's easy to say, I want to be healthy or I want to be fit. It gets much harder to really define that for most people. So it's a really good exercise to kind of think about what success looks like, what your goals are, which I did on another podcast episode. I talked about how to identify, how to create your unique goals. You can check that out. And also, part of this assessment phase is a detailed injury history. Have you ever been injured before? Do you ever have aches and pains that come and go? Do you have any medical conditions? Do you have any previous rehab exercises? A big one for me as an occupational therapist. I'm always curious about that. So this assessment phase really paints a nice picture of where you're at that point, at the beginning point, at chapter 1, if you will. And with that baseline, it really kind of gives us something to look back upon and measure ourselves against to make sure that we are improving from that point. With that information, we transition to a preparatory phase, or what I call an injury prevention phase. This phase lasts anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks long, depending upon the person. I also did another entire episode on this as well, but really the idea is to gradually, slowly increase the physical demands on some muscles and tendons, get your nervous system kind of up to speed, making sure your movement patterns are where they should be for moving around resistance, getting familiar or refamiliarizing yourself with some movement patterns, and adding some weight and making sure that your tendons are really ready to take on more demands. After this preparatory phase or injury prevention phase, we often transition into a hypertrophy phase, another block of time where we really stimulate improving the size of the muscles. Improving the size of the muscle fibers is really kind of what's happening on the smallest level. And this hypertrophy phase, compared to the injury prevention phase, things change a little bit. The repetitions change, the rest breaks change, the level of resistance changes a little bit, and that helps prepare us for the strength phase. Now, we know that physical strength is our measure of how much force we can put on objects, how much force we can push, pull, lift, throw, whatever it may be. And it does take specific attention to create the physiological changes to improve our strength, which is different than going to the gym and breaking a sweat or lifting things until you get tired. Those are certainly, could be exercises, but unless you're doing them in a very specific sort of way, it may not be improving your strength. If you go to the gym thinking that you're going to get in a great workout to improve your strength, and ultimately what you end up doing is fatiguing muscles, getting tired, and feeling sore, but not really stimulating your muscles in a way to improve strength, you've missed the mark. And this is where a lot of people can go to the gym many times over again and kind of feel like they're not doing a very good job when ultimately their effort may be perfectly spot on. They're just, maybe just doing it a little bit wrong, dare I say. But we're going to clean that up. After this block of strength, which again, I'll get into the details here shortly and what that's going to look like for you. After this strength phase, we're going to transition into a phase that maybe that should be really custom to you. And this could be a phase of that's focusing a little bit more on endurance or power or speed. It should really be sport or activity specific. For example, I have clients who are avid skiers. I have some who are avid pickleball players, tennis players, hikers. Some clients want to have, more just physical confidence and feel really comfortable in their own skin, or want to have a specific body composition. In order to achieve those goals, this would tend to be the phase where your exercises and training should be pretty specific to an activity if you have one that somebody's pursuing. So it should be really goal specific. And what I find with most of us, and myself included, where I go through periods of the year where I do more mountain bike racing or more mountain biking in general, then there's a period of time when the snow starts to fall. So I want to be prepared for skiing and snowboarding. And so months before the snow falls, I'm adapting, I'm changing my exercise program for the specificity of those sports. And so I find with a lot of my clients, whether it's a sport specific goal, or even like for people who have really don't want to, not really interested in playing sports or being too, outdoorsy or something, I think there's a natural seasonality to our cycle of life, whether it's holidays, birthdays, summer versus winter, more social engagements, less social engagements. There tends to be a little bit of a flow. And so a fitness program should, be built with that, respecting that flow, whether a sport, social, or other. So after you've gone through a phase where you have addressed anything that may be sport specific or an activity specific goal for you, you can transition into a maintenance phase, or a phase where you kind of maybe tone down the intensity of some things for another just short period of time to be maybe have a sense of being well-rounded and in shape. Then, of course, what we do from there is we loop back to the beginning and we start the cycle again. Another phase of prepping our body, doing some hypertrophy, doing some strength training, and we keep the cycle going. And that's going to keep us on the path for a robust health span and lifespan. But let's take a deep dive into what strength training is, what a strength training phase really means. And I have to start off with busting this myth that in order to be strong, in order to really have proper strength, that you have to be a gym rat, that you have to live in the gym 8 or 9 hours during the week and, do nothing but grunt and groan and lift the heaviest weights possible. That is not the case. So forget that. There are people, and I've certainly gone through phases where I've spent, many, many days a week in the gym, 5 days a week in the gym sometimes, years ago. And for some people, that's great. And if any of my clients, come to me and they say, or potential clients say like, hey, I want to be in the gym 5 days a week, I just totally love the vibe. Great. We can get you super strong. If you're going to go to the gym 5 days a week and actually do resistance training, we can get you super strong for sure. But I'm in the gym 3 days a week, and rarely, if ever, am I doing a workout that's more than 45 minutes long. I would say the difference with the way I work out and the way I have my clients work out, skip the fluff. Go right to the very specific, goal specific exercises, doing the exact weight, repetition, sets that are very goal specific, and then go home. Done. 45 minutes. What's happening physiologically is the effort when we put excess strength, or when we put excess demand on muscles, the muscles adapt to tolerate more and more stress. So the more stress you apply to it, when done in a measured sort of way, your body will adapt. All things being equal, if you have pretty good nutrition and you're sleeping well and you're recovering and you're hydrating and so on, your body will adapt positively. It's great. I will also answer one question that I often get, which is, all I have is a few exercise bands and a 5-pound weight at home. Is that enough? Ultimately, no. It is not going to be enough to really get true strength changes, because even a band that's of moderate resistance and a 5-pound or even a 10-pound weight, I mean, that's basically the weight of a grocery bag. And so you're not going to gain a whole heck of a lot of strength with that much resistance. So really heavier dumbbells or access to heavier dumbbells are key. Now let's move into the one thing you can do today that will help extend your health span. And specifically, what I'm going to do is talk through how to build your own strength phase. This strength phase is a 4 to 6 week block that, when followed consistently, will lead to greater strength and therefore greater longevity, greater health span, and beautiful things. We'll also point out that this is obviously a podcast. This is not unique to you personally. So take this as a concept of information, and ideally you could maybe just either discuss it with a trainer or a coach that you're currently working with. Of course, you can always contact me with the information in the show notes, and I'm happy to talk about what coaching with Aaron might look like for you, so you make sure you're getting the most gains from your effort in limited time as possible. So let's get started into this strength phase, this strength block. I'm going to give you 4 exercises to start with. These exercises are going to be a leg press, a bench press, a leg extension, or called maybe a knee extension, and a chest fly. Those are the 4 exercises: leg press machine, bench press, knee extension, chest fly. Those 4 exercises together would be considered pushing exercises. You're pushing the leg press away from you. You're pushing the barbell doing a bench press or dumbbells doing a bench press. You're pushing away from you. The way I like to break up strength workouts are days that you push things and days that you pull things. I'm going to talk about this using those 4 exercises as the example. With a typical strength training workout, there will be one primary lift for the upper body, one primary lift for the lower body, and then some accessory exercises. So in this case, the primary lift for the lower body is a leg press. The primary exercise for the upper body is the bench press. So we're going to spend most of our energy on those 2 challenging exercises. Then we move into exercises that tend to support those bigger movements, those bigger, higher demand exercises. So your workout cycle is going to be alternating a push workout with a pull workout. I would encourage you to throw in some cardio on some days and to throw in a rest day. So you can really kind of create about a 4-day cycle at this point. So if you've already done a preparatory phase and you're not injured and you're plugging away and you're at a point where you're going to do some strength training and you have the bandwidth to kind of put this on paper where you say like, hey, I can sustain this. You got a push day, you got a pull day, you got a day where you do a little bit more cardio perhaps, then you got to take a day off, then you cycle back and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you keep doing that. And ultimately, for sanity's sake, I like to vary some of these exercises, but the same concept is going to hold true that there'll be pushing days and pulling days. Now, here's the important part: the number of sets and repetitions. You are going to do 2 sets up to 6 sets of each of those exercises. And each time you do that, the science says that you will do 1 to 6 repetitions. Sounds crazy, right? 1 repetition? Like, would you actually do 2 sets of 1 repetition? Not really. That tends to be people who are like essentially powerlifting. So what I tell my clients and with the way I do it would be, if you can get 4 repetitions up to 6 repetitions, and you can do maybe 4 sets of that. So think of 4 sets of 4 or 4 sets of 6. That's your little range right there. Then you're in the ballpark. In between each set, you're going to rest those muscles 2 to 3 minutes. Now, 2 to 3 minutes in the gym seems like an eternity. And this is where I see so many people making the mistake of, let's take a leg press, for example, doing a leg press, stopping, waiting 45 seconds, back at it again. And if they are trying to improve strength, they're doing it wrong. There's not enough rest there to really let those muscles recover so they can produce really high force to really improve their strength. So it's 2 to 3 minutes rest for each of those muscle groups. Now, to be efficient with time, as I'm always efficient with time because I don't have all day to be at the gym, I suggest that we do supersets. And supersets means you do an exercise and then you rest that. While you're resting those muscles, you do a different exercise and you go back and forth. So in this case, I would like to superset the leg press with a bench press. And it would look like this. Pick a weight that is, and I'll talk about the specifics of picking a weight here in a minute, but you pick a weight that you can do 4 to 5 repetitions in with your leg press. This is assuming you've already done a warm-up, you're ready to go, and you'll do those 5 leg presses, really hard leg presses. You've done your 5th repetition, your legs are pooped. Those legs need 2 to 3 minutes to recover, which in the ideal world would give you enough time to walk over to the bench press, pick up the bar, do 5 repetitions of bench presses. Heavy, challenging, safe, but challenging. Now that you've done 5 repetitions of bench press, guess what? You go back over to the leg press machine, 5 more, and you rotate back and forth. That's a superset. So you're keeping your body moving, yet you're letting each of those muscle groups, given each of those muscle groups their due time to recover so they can perform in a couple minutes. Now on to the challenging part. How do you pick the right resistance? How do you know you're lifting heavy enough? Is it too heavy? Is it too light? Well, it takes a little bit of practice. And so what I suggest for people who are transitioning to any new exercise or changing the phase of an exercise, again, from a preparatory phase or a hypertrophy phase or to a strengthening phase, as soon as you start tinkering around with the number of repetitions you want to do, you have to kind of explore, how heavy should this leg press be? I don't even know. Of course, start off with a weight that you feel like is lighter than what you think you can do. Do a few repetitions, and if you think, oh, well, that wasn't as hard as I thought, add on more weight. Try a few more reps. And you want to keep playing with that. And it could take a couple days of going to the gym where you're not really strength training per se. You're kind of exploring and figuring out like, oh, that's the right amount of weight for this. That's all I can lift for this leg press to get 5 repetitions. Because you're going to find that weight that is pretty hard. So I'm going to say 8 on a 10 scale of difficulty. If 10 is essentially doable, but basically impossible, you want to be lower than that so you can achieve this. But your effort should be 7 to 8 out of 10. This strength training is very challenging, and you should be able to do 4 or 5 repetitions with great form. It's under control. Your movement is under control, but it is really, really hard. Really hard. If you feel like if you're at repetition number 5 and you can do 2, 3, 4 more repetitions, the weight is not heavy enough. And that is the key. Far too many people can chit chat while they're lifting weights. And if you're having a conversation while you're doing a leg press, thinking that you're strength training, you're not strength training. If you're doing a bench press and you're chit chatting with the person next to you who's spotting you, it's not strength training. It may be a warm up set. It may be some muscular endurance exercises you're doing, or maybe a preparatory phase where you're knocking out, many, many repetitions with lightweight. But if you're giggling and chatting while strength training, you're not strength training. Strength training takes focus, attention, if for nothing other than just being thoughtful and careful so you don't hurt yourself. But it's hard and it takes your attention. So you have 4 exercises on this push workout: leg press, bench press, leg extension, chest fly machine. Now there's a dozen variations for all of those exercises I just listed, but if you do those 4 and you follow if you follow the dosing, that is 4, maybe even 5 sets of 5 repetitions. Maybe for simplicity, think of it as 5 sets of 5. And you're resting for 2 to 3 minutes between each set. Pretty damn hard, pretty damn heavy. You feel that intensity of maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10. And then you put the weight down and you hop over to the next exercise and you're kind of going upper body, lower body. If you do that, you're going to be in and out of the gym 45 minutes time, and you've just done strength training. Extra credit if you want to throw in some other accessory exercises like rotator cuff exercise or core strengthening or some balance stuff. Certainly if you want to do some cardio before or after, that's fine. But ultimately, if you go to the gym for a strength training workout, you can be in and out in 45 minutes. And I'm sure somebody listening to this will say, there's no way I can get out of the gym in less than an hour and a half. Fine. If you got the time, knock yourself out. I mean, you can certainly spend hours at the gym, days on end, many days per week for weeks and months on end. If you have the time and bandwidth to do that and you are goal oriented and that's what you want to do, awesome. For the rest of us who are limited on time, limited on bandwidth, limited on motivation, and have a ton of other things to do that just doesn't fit well, you can be efficient with a couple days a week, ideally 3 or 4 days a week. If you can get 45 minutes in the gym, you can be quite strong when you do it right. So to recap, your action item is to assess your current strength training program, see if it fits into those the dosing that I just mentioned. If it's not, tinker with it a little bit, see if you can align it to make sure you're getting in the right resistance, the right sets, the right reps, the right rest to achieve your strength goals. Strength is absolutely, completely related to your health span, related to longevity. In the meantime, there's a million people that are trying to find the miracle cure for things, miracle cure so we can all live to be 200 years old. Say la vie, if that's what people want to search, that's great. I would be interested if somebody finds something that I can pop in my mouth, a little pill I can be I'm very willing to entertain the idea of taking a pill that's going to help me live longer. But until that time, we know without any dispute that strength training improves health span. Strength training improves longevity. Absolutely undisputed. So please do yourself a favor, give that strength training program a go. If you're thinking about what comes next or how to adjust your program after, again, those 4 exercises I gave you were just an example. There's many, 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 many exercises you can do. And if not to mention the least of which is if you have an ache or a pain or an injury that you're trying to work around, there's adaptations that need to happen. Talk with your trainer, talk with your strength coach. If you have any questions, you can please reach out to me. I'm happy to connect with people who are looking for a long-term relationship with somebody who's very passionate about health span. You can also check the show notes if you'd like a deeper dive into these topics. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter that I send out to my VIP coaching clients. And until next time, please take care of yourself, strength train properly, and thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Cheers.